Hey guys, welcome back to some more videos. The Explorer 4 here, and kind of wanted to do more of a random, just me turn on the camera, really just blabbering out the mouth. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. These are videos that I like to do just to kind of get into discussions about movies that I feel are underrated. Mainly made for just people to watch and kind of go, hey, I enjoyed that movie too, or maybe some people that don't enjoy the movies can kind of explain why they don't like them. And I often get asked questions like, why do you like that movie? Why do you like that one? This are kind of made for that. Just really in-depth discussion of me just sitting here, turning the camera on and talking about movies that I feel are underrated and movies that I feel should get more attention and movies that I feel have kind of been under the radar, and I feel bad for them because they're usually like, I'm doing this series of videos and they're on them and they're on this series of videos, then they definitely deserve more attention. And that can be sequels, remakes, original films. It could be anything that I feel is underrated that I kind of want to get on here and discuss why I like these movies. And one of the movies that I wanted to bring up for this topic was, in my opinion, one of the most underrated sequels. And this is coming from even a fan, like, as far as fans of the series goes. I mean, this is one of those films in the series that really has not even a cult following that I feel it should have. I think it's a movie that I've always enjoyed, I've always loved, and I feel never gets properly discussed. And very few times have I heard people actually say they enjoy this movie. A lot of people just aren't big fans of this one, and that is Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. Now, this is a movie that, like I said, the reviews were very lukewarm. The IMDb rating is pretty low. Even the fans of the franchise, this one really doesn't get talked about that much. Even parts 2 and 4 have a bigger cult following than this one does, and I do love part 2. Part 2 is just another one of my favorite slasher films out there, another one of my favorite horror films out there. I absolutely adore part 2. And part 4, it's not a great movie, but like, it's a fun, bad movie. Like, it's a really awful film. There's things in that movie that I think are just awful. But Matthew McConaughey is great. Renee Zellweger is great. There is some funny dialogue and funny acting performances, and it's just an altogether fucking bonkers movie, part 4. But this one, I feel, if it had the gore, if the practical effects were able to get put back in there, which is like Friday the 13th, The New Blood. Like, there's footage out there of the gore effects, but I don't know why they can't just put them back in the movie. Like, I guess it was damaged, the original footage was, but My Bloody Valentine did it with the damaged footage of the gore, and it looked great in that movie. Even though you could tell like it was a little bit more grainy or whatever, but I thought for that version of the film, it actually really worked great. So hopefully one day they can put back the footage in this movie, because there is footage out there, but apparently it's just so damaged and most of it's lost, so we're not able to get a true, fully uncut version of part 3, which is a shame. But if the gore was in this movie, this would easily be in my top like 40 favorite sequels or whatever. It'd be up there. With the gore being missing, I feel like that's what really is the one drawback for me, is like the gore being missing. But at the same time, I feel like everything else worked, and that's why I love this movie so much. And really, the gore not being in there isn't the movie's fault. I mean, if this movie feels choppy or like the editing is crazy, you can thank the producers and you can thank the studio for that. Well, producers, I don't know, but you can definitely thank the studio for that, because the studio said, we ain't having this. This is not getting an X rating. And I'm like, this got an X rating? Like, I get it. We're seeing a very tame version of the original cut, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this is a franchise that's been known for its gore. Like, people that see the first movie, they go, oh, it's so gory. Really, there's no gore in that movie, but people say it's so gory. They feel it. Oh, it's brutal, it's bloody, it's gory. I myself said the same thing when I first seen the movie. And then I was like, well, if I really watch it back and honestly pay attention, there is no gore in that movie. But yet you feel it. You feel like you've watched a bloodfest and a bloodbath kind of movie. You've seen just this massacre. Part 2, on the other hand, shows a lot of gore. And apparently this one was supposed to be just the one that pushes it even further with the gore. And it's really a shame that the gore effects weren't able to be in the movie. It really makes it tame, and at times even the uncut version is just barely uncut. Like I seen the cut version. The cut version is the PG-13 version of this movie. The uncut version is the slightly over the rated R boundary, where you're seeing a little bit more blood. The original cut for this movie is absolutely bloodless. There is not any blood in the original cut. Now, I feel like if the movie would have done that in the first place, went back to the roots and just said, hey, no gore, no over-the-top effects, the studio wouldn't hate that. You could have just made it feel gritty, feel like you've seen a bloodbath. It would have worked. But the fact is, they went into this movie like Part 2, and they had the mindset of doing gore, and they did shoot a lot of gore. Now, the gore was taken out. When you do that, you're taking a chunk out of a movie. And that's why it feels like this movie is slightly incomplete. Because really it is. And that's why I don't understand why back in the day they would take out footage and not keep it. Like, if it was taken out, somebody should keep that stuff. Put it in a box or put it in a case or something. Because these special effects, I think K&B did effects in this movie, and they look great for the little bits that you see. They worked hard on these special effects. It's a shame that they're never really going to get seen. Unless somebody goes back, gets the original cut, what is it called, the assembly cut, and somehow finds the gore in there. If they could, I would just redo the sound effects, maybe do some dubbing, and kind of find a way to put it into the original cut. I don't know if that could work or not. I don't know, but I wish this and Friday the 13th didn't have the censors, because it makes the work of the makeup effects artists kind of disappear, and they work so hard on it. It's really a shame that happens. But I guess I can get into the first reason of why I love this sequel so much, and why people always ask me, why Part 3? Why Part 3? Because Jeff Burr is a director that I really enjoy. I know he's made some sci-fi stuff, which I haven't seen yet, but, it's great to see the guy still out there making movies and stuff like that. He's a director that's always seemed nice, always seemed humble and respectful, and a great guy who has a passionate vision for film, and always a guy that kind of got put in the pressure, because, especially with this movie, the guy was under so much pressure. There was very, very little time to make this movie, and it was such a quick, fast cut, just rampant pace with this movie. And actually, this movie went through plenty of script changes. A lot of the time, the studio stepped in to change things, and for most of this movie, they didn't have a director. They actually fired Jeff Burr while making this movie, and they had to rehire him because nobody else could come in to film this movie. That's how hectic this movie was to make. And the fact that Jeff Burr pulled through, got the movie made, was doing these insane shooting schedules, and the studio just said, nope, that's going, we're cutting this out, we're cutting that out, and the studio was just raining. It just, from the documentaries I've seen, the interviews I've seen, the studio was just not lighting up on Jeff Burr. They were just completely against everything he was doing, and I just felt really bad to hear that his movie that he made, that he wanted to get done and he had passion for, just got cut and cut and cut. And it just was really a shame. But, at least there are people out there like me. There's also a handful of other people that do love Part 3, and I really do. I see the potential in this movie. I see the work that was put into this movie and how it really does focus on atmosphere and much more of a slasher Texas Massacre film, much more of a just grimmer tone, just a really serious, nasty film. Its attitude is, and I really respect that they tried to go back to the horror roots. And Jeff Burr's a great director. I mean, I love Puppet Master 4 and 5. It was my two favorite Puppet Master movies. Hopefully one day I can review the Puppet Master films, but those are my two favorites, Part 4 and Part 5. And he directed both of those, I think, both 4 and 5, I think. But he did those, did Stepfather Part 2, which I heard good things about. He's done plenty of sequels. The Offspring with Vincent Price. Great director, Jeff Burr. That's one of the big reasons why I love this movie so much. I think he gave it such a good atmosphere, the night scenes, the day scenes even. Just certain camera angles and shots that worked really well in this movie. And I thought he was a great choice for this film. And considering the conditions that he had to shoot under and considering how much pressure was put on him, I thought he knocked out of the park and did a fantastic job. That goes for the rest of the cast and crew. Everybody in this movie did amazing. And, it's a great film that I think all the hard work, still shows in the movie. Another reason why I love this movie so much, the cast. You got Ken Ferreira being a badass in this movie, firing an M16, blowing people's fingers off and the piece of their ear off, fighting people. Ken Ferreira kicks ass in this movie, and he's a great lead. And I love how he's the second lead. There's like Kate Hodge, William Butler, then Ken Ferreira, the three leads. And I thought Kate Hodge was an amazing lead. I love her acting, I love the character. She's a strong character that I feel bad for when she's getting tortured. And when she rises up, it's a very satisfying ending where she rises up and fights back against Leatherface and, hits a rock against his head and, better than you backwoods motherfucker. Having a badass one-liner. Ken Ferreira is awesome. William Butler, I guess you could say his character is meant to be kind of an asshole, but his character was pretty interesting. It didn't really have much to do, but it wasn't a bad character. Drive. He's just, his certain lines he said was pretty funny. I thought he brought a lot of good comedic stuff to the film, William Butler, and I'm a big William Butler fan. I mean, he's been in Night of the Living Dead, Friday the 13th Part 7. I believe he was in Freddy's Nightmares. Just a guy who I've seen in plenty of other films. I thought did a good acting job, and in here does a good acting job as well. Also, the music in this movie, I really love. The opening theme song, dun, 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 dun. The end of the song, this heavy metal song that's really awesome. This kind of rock song. A lot of the rock used in the movie just really adds to it. This got this cool early 90s thrash metal soundtrack, which is really awesome. But I also love just the regular music as well. There's some cool ideas in here. I mean, you've got the idea of Leatherface having a daughter, and that's the same girl from Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. She's also the same girl from that movie. It's a cool idea, definitely interesting and different. The idea that Leatherface has kind of found this new family, and how there are new family members, like you have Viggo Mortensen, you have the guy who, technology is our friend. Kind of the guy with the claw hand. Looks like you had a little mishap. I forget what his character's name is though, but he's a good character. Alfredo, this kind of crazy perverted dude. The mama character. And Leatherface in this movie, of course, another positive, played by the awesome, badass R.A. Mihailoff. I thought one of the best portrayals of Leatherface out there because he's a really serious, just the way the mask looks. I love this look for Leatherface, just the mask, the way the hair is, the chainsaw, the outfit, just a really cool look for Leatherface in this movie. And he has this little knee brace for what happened in the second movie, because this is following the... Well, actually, I think this one ignores part 2, and the brace from part 1, when the chainsaw hit his leg. So this follows part 1, ignores part 2. Then part 4 somehow connects the first 2, and then mentions the first movie. So how that timeline goes, I have no fucking clue. But Ari Mihailoff is badass as Leatherface. He's badass. There's a moment where this character throws something, I think it's like a pair of headphones into the stove and turns the fire on, and Leatherface grabs and makes him grab it out of there with the fire. So Leatherface in this movie is a badass. He's got this like the biggest chainsaw I've ever seen, except for Hatchet Part 2. Hatchet Part 2 has a bigger chainsaw than this movie, but still, the chainsaw is like 10 feet long. The saw is family on it. It's a badass looking chainsaw. I love the practical effects that are there. Like there's a scene where they have William Butler upside down, and this sledgehammer comes down, hits him in the head. People getting their fingers shot off, their ears shot off. This girl gets put in this tree and a chainsaw through her. Not a lot of practical effects there because obviously it got cut out, but the practical effects that are there look pretty decent for what they are. It's just got a great atmosphere to it, got a great mood. I love how it's this serious, nasty, grimy film that tries to have this really hardcore edge to it. I like how Leatherface, although I will admit this, it would have been better if like they're calling it Leatherface if it was just Leatherface by himself in the woods, you know, dealing with these teenagers' characters, more of a slasher tone. Having another family in this movie was kind of like, okay, he just so happens to find other family members, like more family members that are psychopaths and stuff like that. Alright, but at least the cast was good, and the characters were, you know, unique and different, and their dialogue is just another thing I love. The dialogue is creepy. That I did think was effective, the dialogue, because Leatherface and everybody's at this table, and I like how in the previous movies the girls were kind of just tied down to these chairs. Well, here Kate Hodge gets nails through her hands in this chair. Brutal way. And they're sitting there, and the mama character is just like, you know, we know what to do with them parts. Cut mine out when I was younger. I did. And it's like, what? And then this guy comes up, and I think it's the Joe Unger is the actor's name. Joe Unger, the actor, that's his name. He's this character that's like technology guy. He comes by and he's like, yeah, Leatherface is gonna like you. He makes good babies. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, they're talking about how they're gonna torture this girl and rape her. It's just this disturbing dialogue. This really crazy dialogue that I thought was creepy when they say that Leatherface kind of comes over and pets her face, like he pets her face and her hair, and it's just like unsettling. Very creepy scene, for me at least. The dialogue in that scene was very creepy. So yeah, the dialogue is creepy. There are homages to the first movie, but it's not like a total remake of the first movie. The ending is pretty cool. I will say, I love that Ken Ferreira does live. I'm not going to complain about that. That's awesome. If you're going to have him live, I would say shoot another scene to kind of... Because they went back and they reshot an ending. Because the original ending was Kate Hodge survived and the daughter of Leatherface is in this car and they're driving away. But they went back and they reshot the ending because they wanted Ken Ferreira to be there. And I'm like, if you're going to reshoot that ending, I would take out the ending where Leatherface is fighting Kate Hodge in the swamp area and have another way that they kill off Ken Ferreira, because they show that Ken Ferreira gets a chainsaw in his head, like right here. And I don't really like the way the movie ends. I will say that too. Like, there's probably two things. Like, the gore not being there, and the ending. The ending is really weird because the studio didn't know what they wanted to do, and the script kept changing, so the ending is really wonky. Because, first of all, they get into this fight. Ken Ferreira and Leatherface get into this fight in the swamp area, in this water, and the chainsaw is rimming. Nobody's rimming. It's in the water, middle of the water. It's rimming, and it's doing this in the water. It's like coming out of the water, going back in, coming out, going back in. And somehow it's on and rimming. I have no clue how it's doing this. And Leatherface takes Ken Ferreira's head, pushes it against the chainsaw. You see blood and everything, but yet Ken Ferreira is still alive at the end of the movie. Just a little flesh cut right here, flesh wound. And I'm like, what the hell? I just didn't like that ending because Kate Hodge didn't try to help out Ken Ferreira. She waited till he was dead to try to help out, and he was just already dead. And I'm like, really? So it kind of made like the Kate Hodge character kind of like, well, why didn't you help out Ken Ferreira? And then Ken Ferreira's alive again, and how is a chainsaw in the water? And Leatherface is alive at the end of the movie somehow. It just was like an ending that went all over the place for me. But at least the very end has a cool, badass one-liner. You know, there's roadkill all over Texas. Got that right. They drive off. I love that. So they attempted a satisfying ending. To me, I'm not really a big fan of it. It's not really anybody's fault. It was just a mishmash of, you know, the script not being complete, the studio interfering, just collashing things that didn't really result to anything besides the ending being really awkward. Just really awkward ending. But what I think should have been done is if they reshot that stuff, they went back and reshot stuff, they should have just shot a scene where Kate Hodge takes a rock and hits Leatherface in the head, and maybe you think Ken Ferreira is killed, and he gets knocked out somewhere, but he ends up being alive. Like, reshoot that ending. Do something else that makes more sense, because the ending really didn't make too much sense for me. But I love the sequel. I've waited for 22 minutes. I'm probably going to end the video soon. But I just want to say that I love this movie a lot. This is a movie I feel is very underrated, criminally underrated, and I really enjoy it. These videos are kind of made for discussion, so if you enjoy this movie, let me know in the comments below. If you don't, let me know in the comments below. I'm always up for discussion and debate, but yeah, in my opinion, Leatherface, Texas Massacre Part 3 is a very underrated film. And yeah, I just figured I'd make a video, just me rambling, getting on here, discussing this with you guys, and hearing you guys' thoughts on it as well. But anyways, thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Have a good night, guys, and I'll see you guys later. Explorer 4 is out. Peace!